Hi and welcome back to another video. This is another reading video, so we're going to be discussing books that I read in April. So my reading journal spread is looking like this, with 828 pages read and 2 books finished, so that's like an average of 28 pages per day. So yeah, the first book I finished was It Happened Like This by Vicky Foster. I ended up giving it 4 stars. So I started reading that book in March, and I have talked about it a little bit in the previous video. This is the spread that I did for it. I thought this book was really well done, and it was really engaging, even though it was all about one topic basically. Well, not one topic, one person and her family, but it was still really interesting and engaging because of the format of the book, as I have mentioned in the last video. So if you've not watched that video, go check it out. There was almost a sense of unreliable narrator in this book, which did make it a lot. It wasn't confusing, but confusing in a good way, like interesting, as you kind of discovered the truth about the situation and what was really happening, and uncovering different emotions and understanding what happened basically as you progressed through the book. It wasn't in chronological order, which is again the formatting, and that worked. Like, it didn't feel like it was going in the wrong order. It felt exactly the right order to go in to explain it. And even the ending wasn't the ending, but it felt like a good place to end, even though we'd seen what happened afterwards. But it had, I guess it had a more positive tone where it ended. So yeah, it was a good book. I'd recommend reading it, though it is quite depressing, so don't read it if you don't like any of the subjects in it. The second book I read this month was Chemical Marriage by Gordon Dahlquist. It's the 3rd book in the Glass Book series, so I have officially finished a series this year now, which is good. I read the 2nd book this year as well. I gave it 4.5 stars, and here is the reading spread that I did. Not a lot on it, but I just wanted to draw the Countessa. She's one of the characters, and the red. I just thought she would wear red. So I wanted to put more quotes on this page, but I couldn't find any without having to actually go through the physical book. I couldn't find any quotes like on Goodreads very much, except from one quote which I put on. I think I have a very theme of red and orange this month. Like, the first book was orange, and this is red, and then the next book is like red and orange. Like, there's a theme. I don't know why, but there is. But yeah, here's the book. It was very long, so it took me a good time to get through. I tried to read it fast because it is so long, and I was like, I actually just want this series to be done, but not in a negative way, just in a way of I wanted to finish it because I wanted to know what happened in the end. I think the start and the end of this book was the most engaging. The middle kind of went off a bit because I felt like plot lines are almost being reused a bit with the whole this person's good, this person's bad, basically, put it lightly. Whereas the start of this book was exploring some like new ideas and the consequences of what happened in previous books, and the end was like the massive climax where everything came together, and I thought that bit of the ending was really good. But then 2 characters at the end I thought something more was going to happen to didn't happen, which I can see now reflecting on it. that was just because these two characters weren't fully ready for what you actually wanted yet. And that was actually a good choice not to give us what we wanted, basically, because it would have been rushed. Like, they needed more time, more time than this, because they weren't actually necessarily together at the same time for this book, and they needed more time than this book to actually reach the place where they were ending up. But it was insinuated, and you did know at the end that it was going to happen, if you can get my vague thoughts. And then I started reading The Sunlit Man by Brandon Sanderson. I only just started reading this book, but I am now quite far through it. But I only got to page 40 this month. So I've read a lot in the past few days because it's a little into May. But yeah, I can't believe I haven't read a Brandon Sanderson book this year. There's another book that I don't know if I want to read this year, but the next Stormlight book I need to read. And I think he's even releasing a 5th Secret Project book, which this is the 3rd, I'm pretty sure. I didn't read the one that wasn't in the Cosmere, but this book is part of the Cosmere, which is why I read it. If you don't know, the Cosmere is the overarching universe in which most of Brandon Sanderson's book series belong to. So you get references, and there is a story emerging now which connects all of them, as well as just kind of the universe relates in different ways. So the character in this book we have met before in Stormlight. Though, to be honest, it took me a little bit to remember who exactly that was. It's actually a sci-fi book, as you can probably tell by the flying spaceships, which I don't read much of, so I think this is actually only the 3rd sci-fi book I think I've ever read, unless you count some of the things like Mistborn, slightly sci-fi, but I would say that's more steampunk than sci-fi, whereas this is sci-fi. But I am enjoying it because it's such a unique concept. The world that they're on, the sun is dangerous, and if you're in the sunlight, you're gonna die. And so the people on this planet are constantly running away from the sun. And that's just such an interesting concept. Brandon Sanderson always has such unique ideas, and you're like, how does he keep having so many unique ideas? But this is, again, so far a good book. I think it's probably going to be 4 stars because sci-fi. Even though I do physics, sci-fi, I like sci-fi, but it's not as gripping as fantasy. I do still really like this book, and I'm really enjoying it. And Brandon Sanderson, as ever, is a good read. It's not as difficult per se as Stormlight. It's reading a bit more like Mistborn, though Mistborn still wasn't an easy read. So Tress, Yumi, and this all have read a bit easier than his normal voice, which I think is on purpose due to the fun commentary throughout this book, as the first 2, Tress and Yumi, are told by another person as a story, and this one has the same vibe as that. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna get through it soon, I think. It is actually such a weird sized book. I've forgotten what they call it. It's hardback size, but a paperback. And also the edges are weird a little bit, but that is cool. I love the chapter intro pages are cool, which is why it's printed like this. But that is mildly annoying that they're not why isn't that just a straight line? But yeah, the cover is very pretty, good artwork, and I've got a theme of red for this month. But yeah, join me next month and I'll see what books and how many books I've read then. Hello and welcome back to my reading vlog. It's now the end of May, so I've got to tell you about the books I read in May. So I actually finished 4 books in May, which is more than usual this year. That's because I had more time to read now that uni's finished and I went on holiday, so I read a lot on the Sun Lounger, as you do. The first book I read in May was Sunlit Man, which is continuing from last month. I finished that book this month. Here's my reading spread. This book was much better than I expected it was going to be. It was 5 stars in the end because the way that Brandon Sanderson made you fall in love with this world that the main character had only just been to, like, it felt like he could stay there forever and that he'd always been there. The plot of this book and goals and way this world and planet worked was so unique. Can't compare it to anything. It was so good, and sad little moments in it as well. It's so good, so good. I definitely recommend reading The Secret Projects, even though they're not his series, because they are great standalone books, but also fit nicely into the whole Cosmere series. So you can get a lot out of it and think, oh yeah, this, and oh yeah, this, that relates to Cosmere. I think another reason why I like this book so much was because it had a character from Stormlight Archive, and this character had a spren, and I really enjoy the spren, which in that book, which is like a little kind of companion, and I think that made it better, because if he didn't have a spren, it would have been a bit like, oh okay, like, why are you here, why are you doing this? But because he had a spren, you kind of got more of a conversation between 2 characters that did know each other, whereas he didn't know anyone else, so that made it better. The second book I read was City of Dragons, so that's the 3rd book in the Rainwild Chronicles, so the 12th book in the whole Realm of the Elderling series, which is mad that I've read 12 books now by this author in this series. Here is the spread. I did the little tower, which is very significant.
My daughter
Easter
bought me
egg
this one.
in the book, relating to
She
the
bought me one every
first
birthday after
series.
that.
And I was like, oh my god, I remember when it came up, so that's great. It got 4 stars, which is lower than the last one. I think the last one I gave 5 stars, so it's 1 star lower because we didn't actually get to see the main group that much. Like, again, it's a long book. It focused a lot on Lefrin and his little travel back upriver, and it brought more characters back into it. It brought Malta and Rain back into the book, which I did really like, because I was wondering when we'd see them again, because they did seem important, so we should be seeing what they're doing, what they're up to. But yeah, we didn't see as much as the whole group dynamic. I didn't feel like the group of Dragon Keepers actually progressed that much. When you look at it, they did, but story-wise and character development-wise, they didn't develop that much compared to in the other books, where I felt like you're really getting to see them. And I think the dynamic between Tymera and Sintara was a little old. The way they aren't particularly friends with each other, and they get each other's nerves. By the third book, it was wearing down a bit. So I'd like to see that change. I think in the last book it is going to change, but it's the fact that they couldn't change it in this book. Like, I feel like they could have had more of an understanding. But still, it was a good book, and I really enjoyed what happened bringing back Malta and Rain with Lefterin, and discovering places in this book. And a little Easter egg as well from going back to the first series of Fitz, because I adore that series, and the second series of Fitz even more. So it was a nice little Easter egg, and that means that the whole realm of the Elderlings is coming back together a bit more, like interweaving all the series, and you can see that they're all going to come together in the last series, and that makes me very excited to read the final series, as I've heard some very good things about it. So yeah, this book was published in 2011, if you're interested. The third book that I read was On the Black Hill by Bruce Chatwin. This book was published in 1982, so it is a bit of an older book. I got the film cover, I think. I've not seen the film, but now I've read it. I might go see it, get it from somewhere if it's available anywhere. And these other books are quite funny because in the back you have like a thing to sign off and get the next book if you want to buy another book, which is advertised in the back, and all the books like £4. This book was about these twins in Wales, and they lived on Black Hill on a farm called The Vision, and we follow their life from just before they're born. We follow their parents and till they're old, and it's just a really lovely descriptive book that really puts you in the environment. It really describes the environment and all the little characters and the little ways that the community interacts with each other, the little quirks and what happens there, and how they all relate to the twins and their life, and also what's going on in the country and the UK at the time, like World War that was happening. And I think this book did much better what Lake Wobegon Days didn't do for me. Like, I read that book and it's got a similar almost premise, but you're following this little town and village and the characters in the village and what they do in their daily life. Like, it's not got an overarching plot of this needs to be done or this has to happen. You're literally just following their lives. And this book did much better what Lake Wobegon Days didn't do for me personally, because I gave that book 3 stars, I think, and this one is 4 stars. It's a historical fiction because it is set in the 1920s, I think, starting around then at least. It is interesting to see what life was like then and what these 2 people in Wales on the farm did. Like, it isn't obviously the most thrilling and exciting book, but it's just really beautiful. The spread that I did for this book is here. I just did a little stone wall because they live on the farm and there's little stone walls around each field. And I wrote a couple of quotes down as well. So the final book I read, which is the best book I read this month, is Phantasma. It's the first book in a series of Wicked Games, and I gave it 5 stars, and I read it in like 4 or 5 days when I was on a holiday, so it was that good. And the cover, oh my god, the cover is brilliant in this book. It's a dark romantasy, so dark romance fantasy, and it follows a main character called Ophelia, and she's just got the magic from her mother, and she must enter this competition called Phantasma because her sister's got it and she doesn't want her sister to do it alone, and she meets another main character called Blackwell, and he's the love interest. And I just think the dark fantasy setting of this is really cool because it's very, very gothic, and there's devils, ghosts, and like evil creatures and haunted manor basically. You're following the main character through these games and you're seeing how the relationship develops between the two people and how complex it becomes in the end when everything slots in together, and there's the plot twist of how everything relates to each other and why certain things occurred and why Phantasma even exists. And I think that was really cool. I didn't expect the plot twist, but looking back you can obviously see all the hints, but I think that's why it was really well done, because it's a sudden revelation of why everything is. It was done really well. And another part of this book is the main character has OCD, so she has these intrusive thoughts which she calls the shadow voice, and these compulsions to make something not happen. And I think that added a really good depth to the character and explained lots of things, why she did certain things and why people treated it certain ways. And I think that was really interesting to have in a fantasy book, because I've never really read a book with a character who suffers from that. So yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next, but I think the second book in this series isn't with her, it's set with her sister Genevieve, which is kind of sad because I wanted to see more of her and Blackwell and what happens there, but I guess we might find out via Genevieve. This book was published in 2024, so more of a modern book, definitely compared to the previous book I read. That is it for May. I can't wait to see what I read next, hopefully it's good. I've read a lot of pages this month. I'll show you where I'm up to with some of the spreads. So my genre spreads. And my pages spread really shot up because I had quite a lot of time to read this month. Lately I do have a lot of time to read in other months now, especially over the summer. Yeah, I hope you join me again next month, and you'll see me shortly to discuss what books I read in June. Hello again. Now I'm going to tell you what I read in June. So I'll show you what my reading spread looks like. So this is June. You can see I finished 2 books, read 1,240 pages. The average is at 43 pages a day. It's pretty good. I'm definitely reading more now, it's the summer. First book that I read in June was The Eights. This book wasn't a book that was on my TBR, but a family member read it and said how good it was and forced it in my hand. So I read it. It's about these 4 women who are going to Oxford, and it's the first time that women have been allowed to get a degree in Oxford, so it's set in that period of time. And you follow these 4 women throughout their first year at Oxford, and you find out why they're all there. They've all got really enduring reasons for why they've come to study, and they've all, because they're adults, they've all got their own, well, young adults, but they've all got their own reasons and wants and desires in life, and it makes it really interesting to see and discover all their personalities and how they click together and form this little group, which the book's named after. It's called The Eights because they live on Corridor 8. And I really just enjoy a book set in Oxford. There's so many books that I've read that have been set in Oxford, and I do just adore books set in Oxford. So that was another reason why I definitely had to read it. So this is the spread for the 8s, I just drew a little lamp, like one of the Oxford lamps you'd find, and books on a table with a little, like, the writing as if it was on like a notice board, which I thought fit very well. I ended up giving the 8s 5 stars because I just enjoyed it that much, because I felt like it was really atmospheric, and you really got to know each of the characters because I kept doing like little flashbacks to before they came to uni, so you could discover a bit more about them. And I found that the found family they had there was really lovely, and that's why I got 5 stars. The second book that I read was Blood of Dragons by Robin Hobb, and this is the 4th book in the Rainwild Chronicles, so it's the 13th book in the realm of the Elderlings, which is mad, literally. I've read 13 books in that series now. So yeah, it's the last book in that Rainwild Chronicles, so that is it for this little mini series. But yeah, I gave this book 5 stars as well, so June was a good month for the 2 books I finished. It just rounded off the series really well. You got so much happened in this book, even though on the previous books it felt like maybe not as much happened because all the characters were developing and things, but this book, so much happened. You got to know so much about all the different characters as well. There was like a dynamic between 2 characters which evolved throughout these series, and I wasn't the most fond of this stuff because I couldn't forgive this person for something they did in the first book, basically. Helping a grudge a bit. But yeah, I just think all the characters progressed in a way that was right for the characters, and the plot, I'm so glad it did pick up a bit, because it is meant to pick up in the normal final portion of the book. This is the final book of the series, so it makes it really exciting to find out what happens next as things start to be tied together and possibilities for the final book series arises. The spread I drew for this is here. It's really quite simple, but I drew the dragon which is on the front cover, which is Relfada. I don't know how soon I'm actually going to read the final 3 books after this. I might not read them for a bit. I might try and start them close to the end of the year, because I have got a lot of other books I want to read, but also I kind of don't want to read them yet because I don't want to be finished with these characters, and I know the next 3 books you're going to be with Fitz again, and if anyone has been watching multiple of my videos, they know that Fitz was one of the main characters of last year that I loved so much. He's always up there. He's been up there 2 years in a row. He's one of the best main characters in books, and I can't wait to see Fitz again. The 3rd book I started reading in June was The Atlas Complex by Olivia Blake. This is the 3rd book in the Atlas series, or the Atlas 6 series. It's big, so I'm like 400 pages through it, but it's a big book. It's a brick. I think they've been getting bigger each time as well. I read the first book of this trilogy in 2023 and the second one in 2024, so now being 25 did feel like a good time to read it, and also because I was waiting for the paperback to come out, because I have the paperback of the other 2, so it will fit in my collection. This book hasn't got many good reviews online for it. Like, it's averaging about 2.8 on Goodreads, which isn't very good, basically, though the other books, they're a bit like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. I think I rated the other 2 books 4 stars, which is a good book, and this one probably is going to be, I mean, right now it's like 4.5, which might be a bit controversial, that I really do like this book. And the reasons people seem to have not liked this book is because they don't think the characters are doing what they want them to do, which is always a thing with books. that characters, I mean, I think characters have to do what is true to the character, even if it's not necessarily what the reader would want. And because of all the events that have happened to these characters, decisions are going to be a bit weird. But it makes sense that the characters are acting as they do in this book. Plus, people haven't the intellectual speak in this, but all of the books have been like that. This even more, and I think this book even more because they are older and they are gonna complete things they've been working up to for the past 2 years. It's like uni, you're not gonna speak and talk in the same way or be the same intellectual level you were when you entered school and you leave. It makes sense that they're all being a bit more intellectual, and there is a lot of that, but I really enjoy the rambling on and how they're all questioning their own little moral issues in life. And yes, there's a lot of it may be a bit too much, but I think this incessant ramble of intellectual speak is interesting and really fits the characters, because of course they all do think highly of themselves, they all are smart, they're at this secret society, as a university type of thing, and yeah, it makes sense that they're all talking in this way and it fits the characters. This book is spreading out its aim. Maybe it could be a bit shorter and still work out, but we are getting to see all of the different characters and what they do in different situations, and I'm really excited to see how this ends. I'm kind of expecting not the happiest ending for everyone, but I think that is right. I can't wait to see how it ends. That is it for the books I've read. I'm going to show you how my reading journal is coming along in the other spreads. So this is how my TBR is looking. I mean, it doesn't look like I've ticked off that many, but I have, and I wasn't necessarily aiming to read all those books in 25. I just wanted to have a list of books I generally wanted to read, and I just pick from them. I'm not a very big person on setting specific TBRs for months or years. I'm a mood reader. I just pick up what I want to next. So this is how my books read in 125 is looking. See, it looks pretty good. I read, on my 16th book. My index. How the series and the pages are going. As you can see, I definitely read a lot last month as I was on holiday, and this month I've still read a lot because I've taken to reading at lunchtime over this month as I've been in an internship, and I've been doing a lot of coding, and that involves a lot of screen time. So instead of watching something at lunch, I've been reading, which I think is a good break for my eyes from a screen. This is what the genres spreads looking like. As you can see, I actually got a selection of genres, so I'm quite happy with that. I think I probably will get to my goal. It is halfway now, and if I read the same amount of books again, I should hit that. So hopefully my reading goal, my real end goal is 25. I just want to hit 30. If I hit 25, that's really my Goodreads reading goal, but 30 would be cool. Hence why I have left space for 32 books on here, because one year I did read 31. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed hearing what I read these past 3 months. I hope you come back to the next 3. And if you do enjoy this type of video, please like and comment and subscribe to my channel if you want to find out what else I'm going to read. Comment down below what you've been reading these past 3 months and your favourite books of each month, because I would be really interested in knowing what books you guys read. So see you next time. Goodbye.